Glitch recently released the trailer for the next episode of the amazing digital circus, and for the most part it seems to be something pulled straight out of Candyland, like they're literally visiting the Candy Canyon Kingdom. However, as you'd expect with a show like this, everything isn't sunshine and rainbows. In fact, I think this episode may be one of the darkest in the series, and I personally wouldn't be surprised if someone ended up abstracting, or rather, someone makes someone else abstract. Glitch has released quite a bit of promotion for episode 2, primarily some promotional graphics, some early screenshots, and the previously mentioned trailer. However, we should take some of this with a grain of salt. I've seen some people really digging into these promotional graphics, but it's important to note that these were created by Glitch's marketing team, not Gooseworks, meaning they probably don't have any relevant plot clues in them. What we can definitely take a look at though is the trailer. It literally contains clips from the next episode and things that Gooseworks has said. I mean, they're literally the creator of the show. And believe it or not, there are actually a lot of statements Gooseworks has made about episode 2. First of all, on Tumblr, Gooseworks described the plot of episode 2 as I'm nothing, and said that the topic of episode 2 would be depression. I saw quite a few people thinking that this was just Gooseworks joking. However, I do not believe this to be the case. I think she's dead serious. Gooseworks has said that the show is not meant for kids, and that at its core, it's a show about exploring the characters on a much deeper level. With that type of description and mission statement, do we really think that a topic like this is outside of the realm of what could be explored? It's also important to know what Gooseworks means when she says it's not suitable for children. It means that it's uncomfortable, miserable at times, just in its energy and atmosphere. It's just less good for kids and they'll probably drop off it. It's not to say that the amazing digital circus won't have violence or other topics that could scare away children, but it probably won't be the main thing driving them away. In fact, someone on Tumblr asked Gooseworks if it was appropriate for their younger siblings to watch the upcoming episodes openly, just because these younger siblings have been fans of the amazing digital circus, and Gooseworks recommended screening the episodes beforehand, just because of its mood and atmosphere. We do know that there will be dried up corpses in the show though, so maybe note that as well. But the point is, even though the show is a comedy, it may have a drearier atmosphere at times. And I mean, we also know that Gooseworks is planning to make people cry with this. With this context in mind, let's take a look at the trailer. If you're a nerd and you've already seen a super in-depth trailer analysis and breakdown, feel free to skip to the timestamp on screen right now, but I will warn you, we're going to be pointing out quite a few things that most people are missing. It starts with Kang shoving the funny circus gang into a portal, presumably to the candy world we view in the following scene. Something important to note here is that Zooble is not among the characters to actually enter the portal. Maybe Kane respected their wishes not to participate in the adventure this time. Maybe Zooble is doing something different, but right now it's kind of hard to say. We do know that they won't be in the episode that much though, based on these posts. If you are a Zooble fan though, rest assured, Gooseworks has confirmed that they'll appear in a bunch more future episodes. We then get a wide shot of the Candy Canyon Kingdom, which is surprisingly empty. My co-researcher for this video suggested that its vacantness and sectioned offness could imply that it's not finished. I'm gonna assume that this is due to the show's general retro video game vibe, and having an empty landscape kind of fits that, but really that's up for you to decide and theorize about. We then get a shot of the gang being pulled on a wagon by a gummy elephant. Fun facts here include the fact that Gooseworks was talking about what was probably the inspiration for this gummy elephant over a year ago, and that she's also appreciative of how much other people have also been attaching to the gummy elephant. Imagine she kills it off. JK, I don't know, maybe. A few scenes then flash by very quickly. The first of which is the gang walking up to what I assume is the Candy Castle. On the right side, we could see what is possibly the mannequin that was teased a while back, but it's hard to say if that's an exact match or just another same colored mannequin. Maybe this mannequin is actually a really important character. Or maybe we are just trolled by a background character teaser. At the 33-second mark, we see another blue mannequin holding hands with a bigger red mannequin. Based on how prominent they are in the shot and the fact that them holding hands is an extra detail not necessarily needed in the animation process, I could see it being important to the plot. This could be the same mannequin in the other scene, or it could just be another blue mannequin. I'm gonna assume it's the latter just because there's such a height difference in between those two mannequins. I've seen a lot of people assuming that this is a welcome ceremony, but I am actually guessing that this is happening at the end. We then get a shot of Jax pulling a weapon out in a moving vehicle, which we'll get more elaboration on later, and a very fearful looking Pomni. I wouldn't be surprised if this scared looking Pomni happened towards the beginning of the episode when Kane prompts the adventure, or possibly right before she gets thrown in the abstraction cellar, which we'll go over when we get to it. In the next clip, we see a bunch of these gummy gators hanging out around a fire, seemingly waiting or looking for something. Possibly they're looking out for the main game, maybe they're hunting them down. Based on farther clips, I can guess they're antagonists somewhat, however, they may not be evil. Regardless, Gooseworks seem to think that this main crocodile named Gummy Goo will have some sort of fan reaction. I'm not sure if it's positive or negative though. Also, by the way, the two other crocodiles are named Max and Chad, in case we have any Wikipedia editors watching this video. We then see Pomni getting absolutely thrown across the room, decked onto the floor. If I had to decipher this, I'd assume that Pomni stumbles out of bed and her glitching arm collides with the block and it just clips her a bunch before throwing her into the ceiling. Oh dang, my arm totally just got cut off by the crofted in it. Ragatha gets mad at Jax on top of a car, presumably the car from the earlier scene. Cars crashing into each other, which I would like to mention may have been hinted at by these two Gooseworks posts talking about future lines from Jax. Based on the previous and upcoming clips, I'm gonna make the call that this tanker is actually the one the gang is driving, and somehow Pomni got onto the roof of the other one. This would also line up with the crocodile poking their head out of the window of the other car that we see in a later scene. Ragatha then talks to Princess Lulalaloo. I think that's how you say it. A few things confirmed by Gooseworks about this. She, 1, tastes like candy, and 2, she was Gooseworks' favorite out of the new characters to design, and that she got the full Gooseworks treatment, which I mean is pretty clear in the design. Gangle and Jax watch as something pops out of the landscape. I have no evidence for this besides general vibes, but I'm thinking that's Pomni flying out of the ground. I don't know, it just kind of looks reddish. I can't say for sure though. A close-up shot of some hypnotic looking eyes. These appear to be from the fudge monster we get a better look at later. Pomni looking scared again, and this could be another angle of the fear from the previous scene, but we can't say for sure. We see Ragatha proclaiming something to the queen. Already, they're my favorite lesbians. We then see Pomni talking to Ragatha. Already, they're my favorite lesbians. One of the crocodiles then strikes a ton of poses while being presumably carried along by one of the previously mentioned trucks. Pomni holding onto the truck, which is the scene I mentioned earlier, and then a somber scene of Jax. And this is important for later. He seems to be talking to what looks like one of the crocodiles, possibly on the lakeish landscape mentioned earlier where we saw maybe Pomni fly out of the ground. Based on how dark this scene, I'm going to assume that it takes place shortly after that clip with Gangle, just because of like where the sun is. Then we get to see two trucks racing each other with Gummy Goo poking their head out of one of the windows. Then we get to see the gang's truck be put into the mouth of the fudge monster. This character was fully teased earlier by both that hypnotic shot and also by Glitch's teaser posts, and I think the monster is much bigger than all of us were expecting. We don't know much about the fudge monster except for the fact that they might have a porn addiction. I'm pretty sure that was a joke though. And then we get the clip everyone is talking about of Pomni falling into what me and many others are assuming to be the abstraction seller from the first episode. Also in the scene we see that Pomni's arm is just fully abstracted, covered in this dark glitch stuff. I actually have a small conspiracy that this is not actually in the episode and it's just here to throw lore hunters off, but I have absolutely no evidence for this. I'm just leaving this clip in the video here so that if it does happen, I can clip it out of context and say I called it. If this scene is real though, and I'm going to assume it is, I do have a very compelling idea as to why it looks the way it does, and we'll get to that in a second. At the 31-second mark, we get a look at what seems to be a new character. It's shot in very dramatic lighting, so I'm going to assume they're important, but it isn't really clear. Maybe it's the guy that Jax was talking to. We get to see a shot of Gangle happy, which is a rare sight. There's a big here with Kane and Zubul. Zubul all dressed up in their new form. I'm pretty sure they're going to be switching out body parts every episode, so that's cool. And I'm going to assume this shot takes place towards the beginning when Zubul rejects Kane's offer to go on the adventure. Then we get the previously mentioned mannequin scene and Ragatha holding a key. Possibly, the Candy Princess is giving Ragatha the key to the kingdom. I'll explain why that is in a second. Kane with maple syrup. I've seen a lot of people saying this is Canadian maple syrup. However, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. How do we know it's Canadian? Sure, it has a maple leaf on it, which is the symbol of Canada, but a maple leaf is also the leaf that comes from maple trees, which makes maple syrup. So I'm just saying, Canadian, we're getting ahead of ourselves. And then it ends with the release date of the episode. But now you might be asking, Sold, now that we know all the relevant information, what makes this episode so dark and what will go down in it? It'll go down like this. Firstly, before going on the adventure, Pomni is struggling with her glitch, but also wanting to hide it from everyone else. Classic zombie infection style, and it slowly gets worse throughout the episode. That's why we see it relatively calm looking, I mean still clipping with a block, but not like a big black blob on her arm, so relatively calm looking in the one scene, and then we see it absolutely overcoming her in that cellar scene. So after leaving the bedroom, Pomni's trying to hide her infection. Kane doesn't notice and prompts an adventure. Zubul manages to opt out and is basically just gone from this episode. I honestly don't think there's gonna be a Zubul B plot, but who knows? And then Kane pushes the rest of them in the Candy Canyon Kingdom. We know from a Gooseworks post that the rest of the characters are NPCs, so they're kind of created by Kane, and I think we have a pretty simple story trope going on here. I think if they get to the Candy Kingdom residents, probably the princess, ask them to go hunt down the fudge monster, and that the fudge monster kidnapped the blue mannequin child. Classic like go slay the dragon, save the princess type story selling, except it's go rescue our village child. And that's why we get that dramatic celebration later on of the shorter mannequin reuniting with the red mannequin. Everyone's celebrating about the lost resident being returned home. And I assume the celebration at the beginning of the trailer also takes place here. It's just one big celebration shot that's spread throughout the trailer to mess people up. Before all that though, they need to get to the fudge monster. And without proper transportation, they can't do that. So they either steal or get temporarily given this tanker truck. How they manage to aggro these gummy crocodiles though is another question I can't exactly place. My guess though, and this is a guess, I don't really have much evidence to base off it though, is that Jax somehow ticks them off. It feels in character and supports what I'm about to say later. And I guess it could also not be Jax, it could be another member of the gang. Regardless, I'm gonna assume that they mess up really bad. And in general, I theorize that Jax may go too far in this episode. We know that the worst thing Jax will ever do is yet to come, and that could possibly come in episode 2. I think Jax will go too far. And after doing this, he'll have to come to terms with what he's become and his own self-worth, which is where we get the themes of I'm nothing and depression. Either that, or we'll learn if Gangle will ever be happy. I mean, we get to see a clip of Happy Gangle in this episode, and Gooseworks maybe seriously maybe joked about how one of the episodes is about whether or not Gangle will ever have happiness. So I mean, that episode could be this episode, but personally, I'm leaning towards the former option, which is Jax. Again, the Amazing Digital Circus is about exploring characters on a deeper level. Jax definitely acts the way he does for a reason. And in this case, I think Jax is gonna mess up badly. Either he messes up the crocodiles and it causes some disaster, or maybe he causes the fudge monster scenario we see in this scene. Or maybe he possibly even brings like someone, maybe even like Gangle, to the edge and they abstract, or they start abstracting, or he worsens Pomni's abstraction. We know that Jax is going to do something very bad in the show. And we know that he's very sad from this clip, and we know that the themes of the episode are depression and I'm nothing. To me, this looks like all the puzzle pieces coming together. Regardless, I believe that they're going to save the mannequin child and manage to get it home to the Candy Kingdom safely. They get gifted the key to the city as a reward and everything seems happy, which would be ironic for an episode that seems so pink and bubbly to be about depression. Anyways, Kane rips them out of that world and puts them back in the Amazing Digital Circus like main set. Here, Kane will notice Pomni's increasingly bad glitching and abstraction and just throw her into the cellar. How she gets out of this situation, I have absolutely no idea. And that's it. That's what I think will happen in the next episode of the Amazing Digital Circus. Do you think I'm right? Do you think something else? Now that you've seen all the information, what do you think will happen? I hope you enjoyed the video, and remember, that's just a theory.